Shabbat Shalom. Rabbi Robert Barr here, and I'm delighted to be sharing this Shabbat service with you. This is an opportunity for us to pause, to step out of our routines, to gain some perspective on where we've been, where we're going, to think about our deeply held values and our beliefs. So, put away the pencil and the paper, put away the notebook and the keys, set aside the shovel and hammer. Rest. For this interval, no buying, no selling, no working, no laboring, no straining, not living in the past, not planning for the future. This is a time for celebration, for joy, for mirth. We are here alive to rejoice in another Sabbath, another opportunity to be together, grateful for our family and friends, with no distractions. We touch and are touched, the great gift of the Sabbath. Again, I'm Rabbi Robert Barr of Congregation Beth Adam. That's our bricks and mortar congregation here in Greater Cincinnati, and our Jewish community, our online congregation. Well, we've been streaming services for over 10 years now. We began doing that because we recognized that there were people around the world who found value in the voice of Judaism that we gave expression to and give expression to here in Congregation Beth Adam that's based here in Greater Cincinnati. When we began, we had no idea how important streaming services were going to become, particularly in the time we're living in with this pandemic that has resulted in us living separate. We are socially distant. We are not able to come together nearly as easily. We're not coming together for services, certainly. So our streaming services have become a way for us to connect with one another, to remember that though we are sheltering in place, if you will, socially distant, we are part of a larger community. This has become very important, as is the voice of the Judaism that we give expression to here at Congregation Beth Adam and our Jewish community. We recognize and appreciate what our ancestors did, but we also know we're not like our ancestors. New information, scientific, philosophic, have changed who we are. It's informed us. We have a deeper understanding of what it means to be a human being living in a complex time in a universe that's 14.5 billion years old. Our ancestors gave voice to who they were based upon their information. Well, we need to give voice to who we are based upon the information we have. And that's what we've been doing. That's why if you're here for the first time, you'll find that our services are different. We've rewritten them to reflect the information that we have. So you're part of this community. I'm delighted that you're here. Now, some of you are watching live at 6 o'clock Eastern time, and some of you will be watching in our archives. Whenever you watch, you're part of our community. You can chat during these services. Let us know where you're participating from. And please, please, always be welcoming and inclusive, because this is a community of people that really wraps around the globe, and we want everyone who encounters us to feel comfortable. So I'm glad you're here. And we're going to continue now with our candle lighting. On this Sabbath, we create our moment in time. We pause to reflect upon our yesterdays and tomorrows, to renew our ties with family and friends, to restore our energies, to refresh our spirits. As the sun descends and the shadows lengthen, the distraction of the day gives way to the stillness of night. It's time now for us to see not with our eyes, but with our hearts and minds. As the day gives way to evening, it's time for us to welcome the Sabbath. The candles stand before us waiting to be lit. We recall our ancestors as we too seek to dispel the darkness and banish the cold, to bring glowing softness, warmth, and safety into our homes. May the dancing flames of these candles kindle warmth within our hearts, wisdom in our mind, passion in our souls. Baruch ha'or ba'olam, blessed is the light within the world. Baruch ha'or ba'adam, blessed is the light within each person. Baruch ha'or ba'Shabbat, blessed is the light of the Sabbath. We're going to continue our service with the second part of the conversation that I had with Michele Marsh. Now, if you weren't here last week, you may not recognize Michele's name, but you may know who she is if you saw the movie Fiddler on the Roof. She played the second daughter in that movie, Huddle. So we're going to continue that conversation. And know that if you didn't see the first part of the conversation, you can come to bethadon.org and go to where it says streaming services, and there's an archive so you can watch last week's service as well. I hope you enjoyed the second part of the conversation that I had with Michele. So this is a second opportunity for us to meet Michele Marsh, who is in Huddle in Fiddler on the Roof, which is soon. It's going to be celebrating its 50th anniversary in a few months. You played in that, sang that iconic song, Far From the Home I Love. If those of you who are just joining us for the first time, Michele and I talked about how she got the job, or that part, and about that experience. And you were explaining it, you talked about filming it. And as somebody who wasn't Jewish, you learned about Judaism. What's for you is the most memorable piece of being part of that cast, of that show that has sort of echoed through the generations?
You mean the moment in shooting it, or?
Oh, I don't know, the moment in shooting it, or what speaks to you? I mean, it is about transition. It's about families going through dynamic change. It's about families actually leaving. I mean, it's about the immigrant experience, having to leave one's home. I mean, it's about becoming disjointed from history. There's a lot of sort of emotional elements to the movie that I wonder if it spoke to you in any particular way, or when you think back on it today, you say, wow, these themes are themes that seem to be part of the history that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah, it's breaking tradition and all of that. But I think when I was first working on the movie, because I wasn't Jewish, I felt that they were going to discover that I was miscast. And Huddle is, very sure of herself. She knows what she wants and all of that. And I've always felt that I was very shy. And but in working on Huddle, I realized that I do know my mind, and I was a lot more bold than it's kind of, I discovered Huddle and I discovered myself. I was acknowledging to myself that I would ask what I need or what I want, and all of that. So that was important for me. And the other thing that I didn't say, that in between the rehearsing and showing up in Yugoslavia, it was about a month. And during that time, we carried a cassette player with our songs on them that we would rehearse so that we could lip sync to ourselves. And the other thing is that Norman thought that maybe I would look more Jewish if I had brown eyes. So they fitted me with brown contact lenses. And they also fitted Paul Michael Glazier with brown contact lenses. So during the month in between, I was trying to get used to these brown lenses. When we showed up for the first day of shooting, what he got was this. I could not tolerate those. But the other thing was that Zeidel, Roz Harris, who played Zeidel, she and I have exactly the same eyes. She has the same blue eyes that I have. Laser Wolf, Paul Mann, had blue eyes, just like and it may be that Norman Jewison's name is Norman Jewison, but he is not Jewish.
Right. So interesting. So it's interesting. So telling that story. So how that takes place. Well, that's fascinating, and certainly you've done other things over time that's still related to Fiddler. You were talking about there have been some gatherings that have taken place, and it's very emotional. I mean, it was I went from doing some college productions to ACT, but that was small roles, to all of a sudden getting a big screen,
a major motion picture. And what was interesting was that I had kind of the attitude, well, of course, and then I ended up in Hollywood, and it is not an easy career to follow at all. And I would sometimes be called in for auditions, and people would tell me, well, you don't look ethnic enough. You don't look Jewish enough.
Mhm.
Well, I'm not, but because of Fiddler, so it took time to kind of find my, well, I don't know, just
Because you've done a lot. As we were saying, you can go to Wikipedia and read you have lots of credits to your name.
yeah, yeah. The most, besides Fiddler, there's nothing that can compare to Fiddler. And then I did mostly a lot of guest star on television shows.
Right.
The things that meant the most to me is I did a couple of plays at the Arizona Theater Company. I did Dancing at Lunasa, and I did a 2-character play, Sea Marks. And what I discovered, when you do television, you show up and you do the whole week. You meet somebody for the first time and you're madly in love with this person that you've never met or seen or anything. And it's, you have to make it real. You do all your work kind of on your own before you come on the set.
Right.
But the rehearsals on plays, then that's all the discovery. And you're discovering who you are and what your relationship is and all of that. And I had the director at the Arizona Theater Company, you do something and he said, I love it, but just for shits and giggles, let's try it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And he helped me find layers so that it wasn't just flat.
Right.
And it really, the rehearsals were more important to me than the actual performance, because that's the creative part. That's the growing part.
Mm-hmm. So do you like doing legit theater more than TV? If you had your druthers, would you have gone to New York and been?
I don't know if I could ever do New York, but to do theater, yes, legit theater. It's much more rewarding to me, except though, again, when you do like a movie like Fiddler, you have rehearsals,
right?
You discover relationships and all of that. So that's just as rich in the discovery. It's television that's kind of
one shot and done. Did you ever have you sung?
Ever again? No.
Have you never had a? No, I was looking. You had no other musical parts.
No. During Fiddler, like I said, Norman was very worried about the breathiness in my voice.
Right.
And I used to, like I said, when I was in junior high and high school, I did musicals, in all the little theaters on the Monterey Peninsula. But after doing Fiddler, okay, I'll give you another piece of information. We shot it, and there was always somebody watching your lips to make sure you were lip syncing with yourself, with your own recording. And we finished the shoot, and then via, I don't know how, grapevine or something, I was told that they had brought somebody in to dub my voice, my singing voice.
Really?
Yeah.
A little singing in the rain action there.
But this person was like a Broadway singer. And what they ended up realizing was that it was just too big for like Far From the Home I Love. What worked was that I was acting the song. They kept my voice in the end. But that piece of information made me totally insecure about singing.
Oh, I'm sorry, because you have a lovely voice, and the way you sang the song was so moving, and it wasn't. I think it's interesting that they recognize that it was the acting in the song that makes the song. That sometimes what makes a great song is the emotionality of it and the texture of it and the subtext of it. So.
Thank you, and I'm glad they realized that too.
That must have. Did you ever sing it in before a live audience? Have you had a chance to do that? Was ever a cast come together to?
Well, no. Well, there is a group up here in Idlewild. It's called Local Color, and they are a women's a cappella group. And just very, very recently, I've joined the group. I had a girlfriend. Come on, Michele, you've got to, so I've done a couple of performances with them, but I'm surrounded by other people singing the same part or, or harmony or all of that. So it's not solo.
And so we should mention, you live in Idlewild, which is really off the beaten track. A few people know it. There's if you know Southern California, it's an artist community. It's about 5,200 feet up out of Palm Desert. There's an art school there that some people know, famous art school. And you live there you grew up there.
I went to elementary school here. When we left, I kept coming back for the summer programs at the art school because I couldn't get enough of Idlewild. In 1994, I've been having just getting fed up with Hollywood, and I moved to Idlewild, to Pine Cove, actually. But I promised my agents, both commercial and theatrical agents, that I would go. I never missed an audition or work back in LA, and I would drive that 2.5 hours.
And that's a schlep. That's a tough drive.
Yeah, but I did it. I did it for 13 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I was at a coffee shop, and I met Peter, who's my husband now.
Mm-hmm.
And we started dating, and then I was, I'd drive down for auditions, come back up, drive down to LA to see Peter, back up. And then finally it was just getting to be too much, because when I finally stopped dyeing my hair, I was booking all kinds of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
My entire career, I never shot a single commercial. The minute I did this, I was shooting 5 or 6 commercials a year.
Really?
Yeah. So it was just getting to be too much. And I was also teaching part-time at the art school. I was teaching an acting class, an improv class. But finally I just had to quit
Mm-hmm.
because it was too much of driving back and forth. But I made Peter promise that when he retired,
right,
that we would move back up to Idlewild.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved back up 6.5 years ago.
Right.
And basically I'm retired. My agents were asking if I would still, drive into LA, but now the traffic's gotten so much worse. You're talking about driving for 6 hours on a maybe.
Right. No, it's a tough drive.
Don't miss it. I really don't miss it. And we have a little theater company up here.
Right. I know the theater. But it's also Idlewild. Some people may have remembered it. You had some awful fires there. What about last summer or 2 summers ago?
Yeah, 2 summers ago. Bad fire. And then on February 14, we had a deluge like you cannot believe, and it washed out 2 of the highways.
Right.
It has been talk about feeling apocalyptic. It really has felt that way. Now the highways are open, knock on wood.
Right. No, because I remember the one to Hemet was closed you had to take a pilot car down to follow it.
Yeah.
Because I remember, so for those who don't know, my brother lives sort of about 1,000, my sister-in-law about 1,000 feet below Idlewild. And so that's why I get out there.
Half-hour drive, yeah.
Right. And then you're a fire watcher, is that correct?
Well, for the last 22 years, my girlfriend and I volunteered for the fire lookout. I was doing wilderness patrol for the Forest Service for when I was still living in LA. I would come up and do that. But we did the training for the fire lookouts. It's like a 3-day training period. And we were doing Tahquitz Peak lookout when we first started out. We were much younger then. It's like 5 miles up with backpack, water, food, to spend the night up in the fire lookout. And then after a few years, I basically said we switched it to hiking halfway up the trail, spending the night on the side of the trail, and then going up to go into service,
mm-hmm.
fire lookout. Then it got to the point where it's just shoot me for dog food, And there are 2 other lookouts. They do a triangulation. There are 2 other lookouts that you can drive to, Black Mountain Lookout and Red Mountain Lookout. And so Trish and I have been taking her husband's high clearance truck.
Right.
As the last 9 miles driving up to that lookout, 9 miles takes an hour. Wow. Because it's like driving a riverbed. It's awful. So we drive up to Red Mountain, and it's very remote, but we love it. We love it. We always make sure that we spend the night. And there's an Osborne, there's a map. The lookout is in the middle of the map, and the Osborne gives you a degree reading. If you spot a smoke, then you can get a degree reading, how many miles it is from the lookout.
Really?
And then call in San Bernardino Red Mountain smoke check, And then we
Hmm.
give the degree reading, the color of the smoke, and how it's building, give a landmark that it's close to, and that's all of that. And when there is a smoke, you can do a triangulation
Oh, from the other two,
out so that
because
they can
there's
actually pinpoint it.
yeah, because I mean, out there were several fires. I mean, there was an evacuation. I mean, I recall evacuation. I mean, Mountain Center evacuated. I mean, everyone with
Right,
their horses. I mean, recall that. Um,
right.
5 or 7, I guess about 7 years ago, there was another big fire that I
Yes.
remember that one as well.
The
Um,
mountain fire, yeah, the mountain fire. This last one was the Cranston fire that was from 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago. It was July. It was July. Was arson.
right, that was right. He built it. So that's important work that you're doing. So it's an interesting contrast between being an actor and doing Firewatch. I think that the two are so fascinating. And
Yeah.
then doing really community theater up in a very interesting community.
Yes, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. We have some very talented people up here.
Right. No, I know. It's a very well, there are people, other folks actors who live up there and retired up there and
Yeah,
talented folks.
yeah, yeah. Connor O'Farrell has been a professional actor down, in.
I had a chance to, but we bumped into him.
Connor, did you meet
Yeah,
Connor?
yeah. I'll tell you the story when we get off. Yeah, it was actually it was one Christmas, I think. We were walking around at Idlewild. We had gone up probably to grocery shopping. So, and Eric and Karen we were all there, and yes, I met him there. Well, that's so interesting. You have such a sort of rich and textured and fascinating life. I'm so pleased that you're willing to share it with us.
Well, thank you for
Anything
asking.
happening with Fiddler? Is there something that you can tell us? You heard rumors?
Oh, well, I went online because I was trying to get some information about the Fiddler that I did, and they're saying that they're going to do a remake of Fiddler on the Roof, and that was an emails in May and June
Hmm.
that the director who directed Hamilton, what's his name, is Thomas K. Starts with a K. That's
Yeah, I just saw. I just saw it.
just saw it. Is going to. He said he'd always wanted to direct Fiddler on stage, but
Hmm.
now they're working on rewriting for the movie with somebody, and MGM is producing it supposedly.
It's
And
hard. I mean, I struggle with. There is the Yiddish version of it that is,
there is a Yiddish version.
which
That's
is
different.
right.
It's different than doing another movie. I mean, I really felt punched in the stomach. I have to tell
I
you.
would think, and it's so iconic. I mean, the challenge that they're positing to themselves is really grand. I think is to try to do that. There are certain movies that you feel like and it stands the test of time. When I watch it now, it doesn't feel like it's aged to me.
Thank you. Yeah,
Um,
I don't. I think it's.
So, well, what people can do, all those of you sharing with us, let us know if you think it should be remade or not. I don't. That's my vote.
They did a documentary. Did you hear about that on Fiddler? It was
No,
called Miracle of Miracles.
no.
They did a documentary, and they had people from the movie, from all the different casts, and the casts, like you know when we promoted the movie, we went all over the world when it was opening all over the world, and we went to Japan and we met the Japanese Tevye.
Oh,
And
really?
yes, and he said, I can understand why Fiddler works here in Japan. Here we have traditions. You don't have traditions in the United States.
Oh, that's so interesting.
Yes, I mean they've had productions of it, and so they showed different, clips from videos that have been taken of these productions. When did that come out? Maybe a year ago. It came out a year ago. It was
Oh, it's called Miracle of Miracles. I'll have to look for
Miracle of
that.
Miracles. Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
we'll look for that. Well, Michele, thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time. Be safe when you're fire watching and through this pandemic. I hope you're
Yes, and
healthy, keeping your family is safe, and everyone's healthy.
you too. Stay safe, and
Thank,
thank you for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
For me, it was really very exciting to have a chance to talk to Michele, to hear about her experiences with
making the movie, her career, and what she's doing now as a fire watcher. She's a wonderful woman, and I really appreciate her taking the time to share her experiences with us. We're going to continue our service now with our virtual challah and wine. We do this as a way to say we're still connected. Even though we may be eating our meals separately, know that we are bound one another by our values and our beliefs. So as the fingers of the challah intertwine, so do we join hands in our common humanity, sharing the fruits of our labors. We cherish that which has been created through human effort. For it's through the work of our hands, the strength of the human spirit, the vision of our minds, that our dreams are woven into the tapestry of time. We celebrate the accomplishments of yesterday and today, anticipating the possibilities of tomorrow. May the sharing of challah strengthen our bonds with others who walk upon this earth. Baruch amal kapenu, blessed is the work of our hands. Baruch hazon ha'adam, blessed is the vision of our minds. Baruch lechem ha'aretz, blessed is the bread of the earth. And then if you have some juice or some wine, join with me. We celebrate the fruit of the vine and bounty of nature as we lift the cup and sip from it. For we're part of nature, which gave us birth and which continues to sustain us. But even as we depend upon nature, so do we influence its course. Through the search for understanding, we've gained the knowledge to shape our world. Guided by the best of human wisdom and the compassion of our spirit, we accept the responsibility which rests upon us. May the taste of the wine or juice upon our lips stir within us a reverence for nature and a respect for human endeavor. Bruchim chachayim ba'olam. Blessed is the life within the world. Bruchim chachayim ba'adam. Blessed is the life within us. And so we say l'chaim, to life. And having talked to Michele and talking about Fiddler on the Roof and saying l'chaim, I'm always inclined to start singing l'chaim, l'chaim to life, but I won't. If you haven't seen the movie Fiddler on the Roof, or you haven't seen it for a long time, watch it now that you've had a chance to meet Michele and hear her story, and her stories, I should say. And if you weren't here last week, go back in the archives and watch the first part of the conversation that I had with her. Know, too, that right now we've moved all of our Jewish community, that website, to our Beth Adam website. So you can come to bethadam.org. You can hear my podcast. You can listen to old podcasts. There's all of them are listed there. If you've not listened to my podcast before, you can watch old previously recorded services, pieces of our high holiday services, whatever you want, and explore and learn. It's a place for you to be connected, because even though we are separated by distance at this point, we are connected by our values and our sense that we are part of something larger than ourselves. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad we were able to share this Shabbat service. And we end with the words we say each week. May we know blessings those who are near. May we know blessings those who are far. And may the Sabbath bring its goodness to everyone soon, wherever they are. Shabbat Shalom.